So today we're back on the door bolt. This is our third day working on it. Third part of the series as well. And hopefully we'll be able to finish it today. No guarantees though. I am working to thin the final thinning on the back plate before I cut it out to shape. Got a nice big split right there from me not being careful enough to keep this end hot enough while I was forging it. But that's okay, it won't hurt anything. It's pretty consistent. I think I can live with that. So when doing any kind of cutting operation on the anvil, which is a great place to cut, you should be very, very careful not to accidentally cut all the way through onto the anvil face. It's generally a good idea to score and then break the piece off afterward. In this case, the wrought iron is so, I guess, brittle and soft at the same time that it's just kind of breaking off. So I need to be really, really careful or I'll cut all the way through. And if you're not comfortable doing this without cutting all the way through, you should put a plate of soft steel on top of the anvil to protect it underneath what you're cutting. This is not working very well. I'm too stubborn to use the soapstone because I want a finer line. But I've misplaced my scribes in my messy shop, so the corner of a chisel will have to do. So for this kind of work, I find that a slightly curved chisel works best. And you don't cut the full length of the chisel edge. Instead, you leave a little bit, and you're using the cut that's already there, as well as aiming at the line to keep everything lined up. Now, it would be very easy to take that to the vise right now, clamp that edge in the vise, and just rock it back and forth. But the thing is, I don't really want to get up out of my chair unnecessarily. This works just fine. I can correct some of this in the filing, but the closer I get it with the chiseling, the less filing there'll be to do. Kind of matches the decoration on the latch a little bit. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. I'm gonna not chisel quite as close in this area, and I'll file it to my liking. First thing to do is to cut in right here carefully. So a narrower curved edged chisel is nice for doing curved lines. So there is our finished back plate. Well, at least it's shaped. This was really different, every step of it, because I'm using wrought iron. I've never worked with wrought iron sheet before, and this is pretty thick for a sheet. It's actually thicker than it probably should be. I would have been happier if it had come out thinner, but I'm not willing to go put that much extra time in it to take it a little bit thinner. But wrought iron is it's a totally different animal than mild steel. Mild steel is much more homogeneous, and wrought iron is anything but, and it just works differently. It doesn't bend the same, and it's more liable to crack and break, and sometimes that's not an issue, and sometimes it is, but in this case, it's not. It actually made things a little bit easier, but it was totally different chiseling, different filing, and but overall, it came out good. I'm pretty happy with it. All right, so I need to make a staple to fit this narrow part of the bolt and a staple to fit this wide part of the bolt. And these staples need to have a pretty good fit, because while I want enough slop for free movement, I don't want too much slop. And so I will need to be able to shape the staple to the size of the bolt. But I can't use the bolt itself for the form, because I don't want to mar the bolt or mess anything up. So instead, I've made this mandrel that is the size of the bolt here, and I will be able to use this for the final sizing when I make the staple. Use it this way for this staple, and use it this way for this staple. So we're going to try that and see how it goes. I've got this piece of rusty old iron. This is wrought iron that I'm going to make the staples out of. So the first thing I'm going to do is forge the end out into the proper sized stock for the staple, for the first staple. All right, so that's about a 1/2 inch wide and 2 1/4, 2 1/2 inches long, somewhere in there. I think that's about what I need. Now we're going to bend this into a horseshoe, essentially. Something like that. Cut it. Not quite all the way off, because I'm going to take another heat, and it'll be convenient to have that heat in there, or have a handle. All right, it's looking pretty good. I did kind of want the corners on top to be a little bit more square. I have to be really careful with this or I'll develop cracks inside the corners. But I think I'm going to go ahead and try to square those corners up by driving the top down. This is going to be a bit tricky, but I'm going to try it anyway. Ooh, it's making me nervous. All right, not perfectly square corners, but I think I can live with it. We have to punch some slots. And I'm going to use the vice jaws as my bolster. This is a bit tricky because I don't want to booger my vice jaws. Had me scared there for a minute because this staple cinched down a little bit too tight where the bolt wouldn't slide, but it had a little bit extra room sideways, so I was able to pinch it in the vise and loosen it up just perfect. It's always great when something is actually fixable. So as you can see, the bolt is captured in its travel by this staple right here and this neck, this smaller area. So one of the most satisfying things about this build to me that probably most people will never care about is that it was made from wrought iron, reclaimed wrought iron, every single piece of it. And I actually have the remnants from every piece right here. So the back plate was made from 1-inch round wrought iron, reclaimed from the old Globe grain elevator. And then the main bolt here was made from a piece of this wagon tire. And the knob on the end was made out of a collar of this 1/2-inch square wrought iron rolled up and forge welded on. The staples were each made from a piece of this rusty old bit. And that's just, it's really, really satisfying to use the materials that blacksmiths have been using for thousands of years, i.e. wrought iron, and turn a pile of scrap into something like that.